everyone. Welcome back to Digital Live. Uh, Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a good day. Super excited to get started today. Eric, who do we have today?
Yeah, today we have the pleasure of speaking with Sudhi Uppuluri, the Chief Technical Officer and co-founder of Computational Sciences Experts Group and of GreenRoute, a company participating in the clinic. So Sudhi, thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
Hi, Sudhi. Thank you so much for coming on today. Would you mind giving a brief introduction to yourself, your background, where you went to school, and what you do?
Sure. So I am the Chief Technology Officer at GreenRoute and at CSEG, two of the companies I co-founded. And by education, I have an aerospace engineering degree from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. For the past 20 years, I've been working in the automotive industry on vehicle powertrain development, thermal stuff, doing a lot of computer simulation on them. I teach at the University of Wisconsin-Madison on thermal management. I am also the SA chair for the technical committee on thermal management and a industry board advisor at Kettering. So that's a little bit about myself.
That's great. Could you go a little bit more in depth about GreenRoute and about your app and how it plans on reducing energy consumption?
Yeah, sure. So GreenRoute, the idea for GreenRoute came about 5 years ago as we were working on different vehicle powertrain efficiency. And as you know, over the number of years, every car maker has been trying to make their cars more and more efficient in terms of what efficiencies each of the components have, but also making them hybrid and getting the hybrid better and better to make it more efficient. And through our work with that, we realized that no matter how efficient we make the cars, everybody will still continue to waste energy as they go from point A to B. And they waste energy because the maps are making you waste energy. The directions that we use today are based on the speed of travel and don't look at the energy consumption in mind. So for example, we're in Ann Arbor, so we want to go from Ann Arbor, let's say, to Novi, and we look up Google directions. It looks at what is the fastest way to get you there, and it says, okay, go. This is the fastest way to go there. And what we realize is that turns out once you start to think about, well, it is the fastest way for me to get to the destination, but gosh, going on this fastest way is really consuming a lot of energy, be it because of traffic, be it because of the speed at which it's going or where the road is. And there existed alternate routes to get to your destination, equally fast or sometimes nearly as fast, maybe a minute slower, that would consume less energy. And so that's when we kicked off a project internally to really look at routing with the energy consumed in mind, in addition to speed of travel. You got to always add the speed in there because nobody wants to go the most energy efficient way, which takes you 20, 30 minutes longer. We're like, oh, no, I don't have that much amount of time. But if I said, we'll take you to your destination a minute slower, but it'll save you 30% on your electric vehicle battery. Oh, now we're talking. Or it'll save you 15% on your fuel. And so that's what we found when we developed GreenRoute. That's kind of how it came about. When we did it and we did a study across different cities. We studied LA. How does it apply to people driving in LA, Chicago, London, Atlanta, everywhere? We found on an average 13 to 19% reduction in fuel, and anywhere from 15 to 50% reduction in battery for different routes. And so that's kind of when we realized, wow, we're onto something. And an average driver will save $280, 6 tanks of gas, and electric for electric vehicle drivers. It's even a big deal because range anxiety and do I have enough battery to get to the destination is a big deal for them. And if you say, hey, in your route, you can save 20, 30% of battery and still get to the destination at the same time, I think this should be a a no-brainer for them to look at. And so that's kind of that's GreenRoute, and so it came about with us putting our automotive car design efficiency hats on and look at the efficiency and energy for you to go from one place to another.
That's a great mission, saving energy consumption. I know a lot of people are looking for more effective ways to save. So now that you've identified the problem, what's the process like for developing the GreenRoute algorithm? How, in simple terms, like how do you get started on that process?
So there's a super simple way to do it, and then there's a very complex way to do it. And GreenRoute falls somewhere in the middle. I'll tell you a super simple way. Your car, let's say, is 20 mpg, right? That's the average fuel economy, which is 20 miles to the gallon. And you say, just suppose you were driving somewhere and you're going 20 miles. Well, how much fuel are you going to use? 1 gallon, right? That's 20 miles to the gallon. And so that's a super simple way to say, oh, I can just use my MPG and say, I know exactly how much fuel I'm going to consume if I drive here. Now, it turns out you can't quite use that super simple way. It's because the 20 mile per gallon average is sort of an annual average based on highway driving, city traffic, stopping at traffic lights, and all of that. And if you were to want to pick which direction I want to, what route I want to take, you can't use a simple calculation. You really need to account for how many stops you're going to make, how fast you're driving, is there traffic, is it hilly, the grade at which you're driving, and a number of different things. And so we realized that that's kind of what we have to do. Also, turns out it matters what kind of car you're driving. So just suppose you're driving a Tesla Model 3, right? And just suppose I'm driving a Ford F-150. The energy efficient way for you is different than the energy efficient way for me. And that's because if I wanted to go on a highway, the Ford F-150 would love it, right? No braking. It's conventional cars do great on a constant speed highway. Electric vehicle, on the other hand, they thrive in a city traffic. If you're braking, it regenerates and collects back up the energy. If you're going to go on a highway, it consumes a lot more energy than your standard energy. So actually, the energy quadruples as you double the speed. So it's going up by an order of 2. So long story short, you had to consider a lot of different variables. You had to consider traffic, start stops, the grade, the exact type of car. And so we came up with all the necessary variables without making it too complex. So with GreenRoute, we realized we developed an algorithm that asks you first. So you can, when you go to GreenRoute, it'll say, what kind of car are you driving? You have to enter year, make, model. So you'll say 2019 Tesla Model 3. It'll then inside know, okay, gotcha, this is the car you're driving. This is what happens inside the car. This is how the energy consumption changes when you're braking and all. It uses all of that information. And then it also uses the traffic information from Google and like the elevation, the grade of the road from Google. So we use Google to get data on traffic and roads. And then we do our automotive. We leverage our 20 years of work to calculate what the energy consumption is going to be, and then come up with which way is the green route and which way is, we call the blue route, but it's really like the fast Google directions.
That's really impressive, considering all those factors and how that sounds very complicated.
Yeah, so people think it can be as simple, but it's not. There's a lot that goes into it.
Speaking of GreenRoute, I saw that wasn't the first company that you started. How did your experience with your previous company help you with this new venture? And what did you do differently this time?
Yeah, so we started CSCG. That's our first company. It stands for Computational Sciences Experts Group, and that is also in the automotive domain that we do. That we started that in 2011. GreenRoute got spun off as its own company in 2019, so much later. One of the things that we learned what I learned from CSCG was that the first month when you start a company, your salary is zero. The second month of that starting the company, your salary is zero. And the third month, your salary is zero. Also, probably the sixth month, your salary is zero. So when you're starting companies, you need to have patience before it gets traction and before you start generating revenue. And you need to have a financial plan for yourself and for the company for it to have long enough runway for you to give it a fair shot for it to take off. With GreenRoute, luckily, we had CSCG. So CSCG is an automotive modeling software company. And so that gave us the financial backing and the security as GreenRoute was taken off. GreenRoute had major turbulence as soon as we launched, actually. As you know, 2019, I said we launched in November 2019. Guess what happened February 2020, right?
Yes.
Nobody was driving. And so just as we launched, we had some fantastic conversations with fleets and car companies who were very gung-ho about it. And then we're just now, coming out of it. We're still waist deep in muck, trying to shake free of this, the 2020 pandemic and get GreenRoute flying again.
Yeah, well, I know that's probably like really hard, but you are now coming up with some new exciting things. Your app's coming out, correct? Soon?
Yeah, that's right. GreenRoute app was launched. The iOS app was launched last month. We just kicked off our pilot with DTE Energy 2 weeks ago. And so our pilot with DTE Energy provides GreenRoute app to all EV connections people within Southeast Michigan. And so everybody who's an electric vehicle driver under the DTE service area should have received an email from them saying, hey, we are partnered with DTE, GreenRoute, and you can have access to GreenRoute app for free. And so we gave them a code and we comped a lot of the functionality in there. And yeah, so we're quite excited by it. A number of companies are interested and are watching this pilot closely. And they've told us that they're very interested in the technology and they want to see what type of a traction and outcome comes out of this pilot. And based on that, there will be more to follow. And so no pressure.
Well, that sounds really exciting. I bet that we have a lot of questions in the live chat. Eric, do you have any questions?
Yeah, we sure do. So piggybacking off of some of the topics you talked about, the first question is from Bud, who asks, how many companies have you founded? It sounds like at least 2. And also, what do you like about being a founder?
Yeah, so I would say 2 companies. 2 companies is the good number. I would say there might be more LLCs under my name, but those are more projects that have not been fully grown into companies yet. So CSCG and GreenRoute is it. As a founder, what I enjoy the most is being able to take an idea, and grow it into something bigger. So it's essentially your idea, and you're at the helm of it, And it's success, it's failure, and all of its direction, a lot of it in the early stages really depends on you, being able to connect with the right people, do the business development and all of that. So I really like the process of being in total control and being able to take it in whatever direction that I believe that it should go in.
So you might have just answered this question from Alessandra with that, but how did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
It's strange. There's something about being an entrepreneur always attracted me. I've always prior to starting my own company, I was working for another robotics company in Boston. I was the director of sales, and so I would go represent other, products, and we would go close millions of dollars worth of deals. And in the back of my mind, I would just remember going, yeah, we just closed a really big millions of dollars a deal, but I just get a small bonus for it. That's all for the company. And so I always thought that, if I always wanted to start something on my own where the harder you work, the more successful and the more possibilities for riches, that you would have, as opposed to working for a different company where the harder you work, it can go many ways. Either your boss thinks you have poor time management, or you get bonuses, but not the large sizes that you deserve. So, so that's kind of why I started it.
Sufyan Q, in talking about GreenRoute, says, awesome concept. So the fastest route does not always mean the most efficient route. So he asks, do you think this will be implemented in new cars?
We want it to be implemented in cars. We also want it to be implemented in standard mapping technologies, apps that we use. We know right now, like Apple Maps or any of the other guys don't have it yet. We know none of the cars have it yet. And as we are starting to talk to some of them, they are indeed quite interested in this. And so more to follow, more to follow. Hopefully you will see, I would say maybe in a couple of years or so, hopefully you'll see a GreenRoute in a car, in the dash of a car near you.
Yeah, I'll be looking for it. So I got one more question from Alessandra, who asks, what has been the most challenging phase of creating the app?
So we live, so B2B is different than B2C, and especially these days, we live in a social media era where when a customer has a good or a negative comment, they're instead of coming to you and saying, hey, this thing is not working, they can just go online and say, this doesn't work, kind of a thing. So the toughest piece for us is to be able to test whatever we're launching, pretty thoroughly. So imagine we're launching an app, and it works from iOS, so it works from iPhone 8, 9, 10, 11, all the latest ones. In fact, iPhone 6 as well, and iPhone 6 Plus, I think. And so there's a lot of different operating systems and screen sizes. And when we launched it, one of the customers was like, "Oh, I can't scroll," and they were using the old iPhone 6, super tiny screen. So that's just one of the examples. So so the challenging part is to be able to, you have your test matrix and you have your test configuration and all the things you want to test. But once you launch it out into the real world, the variations is quite a bit. And so that's been the toughest for us, to be able to take whatever feedback we're getting and quickly adapt it back in, rather than let it just sit there. Quickly implement on that.
Okay. All right, so I got one more question here from Sufyan Q, who asks, how do you find a way to balance your life with regards to GreenRoute, teaching, automotive, and etc.?
That's great. So I don't think that there is a perfect balanced day ever. So it's not like I'm spending this much time with my kids and I'm, doing this much work and all of that. I more look at it from a energy management perspective. So sometimes the business just requires huge amounts of your time. So I am working first thing in the morning. I'm up and I have my phone with the messaging with the team and a coffee in the other hand. And it goes all the way through, I'm in bed and I'm watching some kind of a TV program, but I'm really working, so it goes all the way through. So it's like, just especially when we are ready to launch a pilot or something is launching, it's 100% that. And there are times where you're like, okay, everything's under control and nothing super urgent happening. And so this afternoon, I took my son to tennis, and he and I played tennis from 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, not working. And so the balance really happens, on a longer term where, sometimes it's all work. Sometimes it's, you're able to take time off of work during work time and go spend time with family.
All right. Thank you. I'll pass it back to you, Destiny.
Thank you, Sudhi. I wish we had more time, but it looks like we're running out. Thank you so much for coming on for the interview today and talking more about GreenRoute. It's been really great hearing about your company, your passion behind it, and it sounds like a great app, which we hope to see in cars very soon. And everyone should keep an eye out for it for sure.
Right. Thank you very
so
much,
much.
Destiny.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you for submitting some really great questions today. Hope to see you back next week. Next week, we're going to be talking with Andrew Israel from Auditaza. So make sure to watch out for that next week on Thursday at 6 o'clock, right back here on our Facebook page. And I hope everyone has a really good night.
Thank you.